Hello, Maverick fans. Welcome to another episode of the Mavpuckcast. I am Jon. I'm here with Bridget today, and we're going to be talking about our weekend up in Mankato. We're going to be talking about the upcoming series against Western Michigan on November 8th and 9th. But before we get to that, we'd like to thank our founding members for their support of the Mavpuckcast this season. As I'm talking to you, you are seeing a scroll with the names of the folks who have donated to Mavpuck.com this season, and we really appreciate their support. Their names will also appear at the end of each episode. And if you'd like to support our efforts here, visit Mavpuck.com/donate. Isn't that right, Bridget?
That is correct. Good job.
So turning to that series up in Mankato, going into that Friday night game, as I mentioned on last week's episode of the Mavpuckcast, Mankato had played series at Michigan where they split. They played at home against Merrimack where they split. And they played a really good series against North Dakota up in Mankato. So going into that first period on Friday night, it was scoreless throughout most of the period, and then 14-26 into the first. Mankato's Brett Moravec puts the Purple Mavs up 1-0. It was off a rebound that came off Simon Lacozi's skate. So it was 1-0 after one, Bridge.
Yep. Omaha had some chances early on, kind of an unlucky chance there for Mankato to get that goal and go up 1-0 in that first period.
Yeah, we definitely had some opportunities that first period. If a couple bounces had gone our way, it might have been a different story. And as you're watching this, I did do my best to get game footage while we were up there, but we were at a super weird angle. So I don't know about the quality that you're seeing. So I just want to apologize to everybody. This is not the normal Baxter Arena quality where we sit. So UNO down 1-0 going into that second period Friday. Again, late, 16:50 into the second, MSU's Brian Carabas nets a goal off a Noah Ellis turnover in our defensive zone. It was just one of those deals where Noah was trying to clear the puck. A Mankato player got in his face, went right to Carabas, and he put the puck in the net against Simon. It was 2-0 Mankato at that point, and then just a short time later, 17:38 into the second, Mankato's Josh Grohl, who had a big weekend for the Purple Mavs, gets the third goal for Mankato. MSU's Adam Isley, who is the brother of former UNO goaltender Seth Isley, beat Cam Mitchell on the faceoff. The puck goes straight to Grohl, and it goes into the net. It's 3-0 after two. Bridge, what did you think of UNO's chances at that point? Boy, a rough spot for UNO to be in, down 3-0 after two periods.
I was feeling a little discouraged at that point because one of the things that we've talked about this whole season is offensive scoring production. And so you put yourself into a 3-0 hole and you think, gosh, are we going to be able to dig out of this? And certainly that faceoff play, Omaha had been doing really well on winning faceoffs, but on the ones that they had not during that Friday night game, several of those pucks ended up with Simon having to fend them off. So that was certainly the case with that third goal for Minnesota State Mankato. They were really making some good plays off of those face-off chances.
Well, you lose a key face-off specialist like Nolan Sullivan from last year's squad. It's going to make a difference in the face-off dot. And this is one of those key points to remember. You mentioned the scoring, Bridge. UNO had 315 total points last season. The players responsible for 158 of those points, so essentially half, are no longer with the team. So half the point production is gone. And with 14 new players, it's a mix of freshmen and transfer portal guys. Expecting everything to be fully baked in October that's a tall expectation. So fans are going to need to be a little bit patient. And look, the Mavs came out firing on all cylinders in that third period, and they attempted a valiant comeback. 13 seconds into the period, Zach Erdahl gets a goal for UNO, assists to Krenzen and Grattan. I'll tell you, Erdahl was badgered by a Mankato player as he skated that puck into our offensive zone.
Yeah, and fended him off, ended up right in front of the net and put it home. So Zach Erdahl doing Zach Erdahl things there.
Yeah, Darren Blue, who's a former Mankato assistant, was on the call on the CCHA TV broadcast. And when I went back and watched the highlights, he kept talking about Erdahl's speed, and certainly UNO fans have gotten used to that. He's been the most consistent player so far in the first 6 games for the Mavericks. And the scoring wasn't done there for UNO. 5:15 into the third, UNO's Sam Stang gets the second goal for UNO, a shot from the high slots. They narrowed Mankato's lead to 3-2 at that point. Great position. Only 5:15 into that third period. Plenty of time left for Omaha to come back. And then 8:06 into the third. Tyler Rollwagon ties it up for UNO. That came on a 5 minutes power play opportunity that UNO had. It was a rebound from an Erdahl attempt in front of Alex Tracy, the MSU-Mankato goaltender. So UNO is tied up 8:06 into the third period. We were getting excited, Bridge.
Yeah, and that was really a heads-up play by Coach Gabinet. I'm not sure who on his staff noticed this, but the initial call was a 2-minute penalty, and Gabs challenged it for a major, and it was indeed a major on that hit on Brady Riss. So great opportunity for the Mavs there, and again, just heads-up play by Erdahl there, and Rollwagon was there to bang in the rebound. So great play, and at this point, it's tied 3-3. It's anybody's game. And you were just hoping for more Red Mavs scoring.
Yeah, absolutely. A great position to be in the third period. Certainly, we didn't think that was going to happen at that point. So you and I were excited. We were sitting next to Dan and Mallory Blecker, who had driven up for the series. We were all having a really, really good time. And we were hoping UNO could hold on, find a way to get the puck in the nets, gain the lead. And going down the stretch there in that final 2 minutes, we thought that we were going to see another overtime game from UNO. And I got to tell you, with our skaters, I like our chance in that 3-on-3 overtime period. We tend to maneuver and operate well with the open ice with fewer guys out there. With 42.8 seconds left in the game, MSU's Rhett Pitlick gets the game winner for Mankato. We lost the face-off. Griffin Ludke was unable to clear it for UNO, and Pitlick put it in. As I mentioned on last week's episode, Pitlick just transferred in a few weeks ago from Minnesota. He was a top point producer for the Gophers last season. That was a very talented Gopher team. So Mankato wins the first game 4-3. But I would say, Bridge, we were feeling good after that Friday game, and we were glad that they got some scoring, got some offensive production, because we were worried that was going to become a monkey on their back, going forward if they went 3 periods without scoring a goal.
Well, the ironic thing is you had pointed out in one of your road reports the amount of time it had been since Omaha had a goal, and it wasn't good. So definitely the momentum from getting 3 goals had us feeling pretty good. Like, hey, okay, here's some scoring, and we can take that into Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely right. We were hoping that UNO could salvage a split. One note is that sophomore forward Tanner Ludke was out for the Saturday night game. Tanner, a big part of UNO's offensive production. He was our leading point producer last season. So he's nursing an injury. So that was going to make the challenge even tougher against MSU-Mankato. First period, Saturday night, 14:06 into that period, Mankato junior forward Adam Isley puts Mankato up 1-0 on the power play. It was kind of a neat little tic-tac-toe play that Mankato had. Isley had a big weekend for Mankato, Bridge, and it was 1-0 after the first, and that was the only goal that was scored in the game by either team.
Well, and it was lucky that was the only goal that was scored, too, because late in that first period, a puck got behind Simon, and Jacob Gavin put his body between the puck and the net. So we were hoping that, we could get some offensive production, tie it up, especially, first period or second period. But yeah, that was definitely a defensive battle the rest of the way.
Yeah, absolutely right. UNO had some good opportunities during the game, but they went 0 for 4 on the power play. Mankato goes on to win that Saturday night game 1-0. They sweep the series. They regain the spirit of the Maverick trophy.
And you talked about we talked about special teams going into this weekend. Definitely needed to convert more of our power play chances, and we're unable to. That 5-minute major on Friday night was Omaha's lone power play goal of the weekend, and they had lots of chances. The other thing on Saturday night, especially, Omaha was out shooting Mankato pretty significantly. I know you didn't necessarily believe the shot statistics, but they had it recorded as 27-16 in favor of Omaha. So Omaha was getting chances. And when I was looking back through my live tweets from the weekend, there were numerous players that had opportunities in that and just could not get anything to go on Saturday night, which seems to be kind of the tale of the Omaha Mavericks so far. I love how Gabs calls it outchanced. They outchanced their opponents in several of the most recent games and just are not getting either the looks that they want, or the guys might be trying a little bit too hard and shoot it high or shoot it wide. Like I said, that seems to be the biggest issue is special teams still aren't where they need to be, and the chances that we're getting, we're just not able to bury.
Yeah, and you always worried early on in a season like this with half the team being new to Omaha, that the guys are gripping their sticks a little tight, that they're trying a little too hard, that they're thinking about it a little too much, and you want the guys to be able to be creative out there and try different things and not worry so much about making mistakes. And it's tough when you're not having that offensive production to do that from a psychological point of view. As you mentioned, UNO had a lot of power play opportunities. UNO went 1 for 7 on the power play this weekend. UNO has been shut out twice this season so far. And the last time UNO lost 4 straight games was in the 2019-20 season. Yes, I know that those are depressing statistics, but as I mentioned earlier, UNO lost half of its total point production from last season, and it's going to be tough to immediately replace guys, talented players like Ty Mueller, Victor Mancini. It might take until January for these guys to fully start to gel and fully start to mesh. So I would encourage fans to be patient with them. I'm being patient. I know Bridget's being patient. We just like going and watching these games, Bridge. But I got to ask you again, another tough series for UNO, but who was your player of the week? Who did you like in this series up at Mankato, Minnesota for UNO?
Well, again, like we talked about, there is a lot to like. Again, we got to see some more, production from guys in that 3-goal game. That was nice, getting a little bit more people to choose from, shall we say, especially with the folks scoring. But since you gave me the first pick, I'm going to take the easy answer. I'm going to pick Zach Erdahl. He is the team leading 4 goals and 1 assist so far this season, and he got one of those goals and an assist this weekend. So Zach Erdahl gets my Bridget pick for player of the week. And again, I hope that he continues to produce because he's a big factor for the Mavericks in terms of scoring and then just all over offensive play.
Yeah, that top line with Zach Erdahl has been very productive this season. As you mentioned, 6 games this season, 4 goals and 1 assist. So yeah, he's averaging almost a point per game this season. So yeah, I dished an assist there to you and let you pick the easy pick. I've got to go with junior forward Tyler Rollwagon. He had a goal on Friday night on that 5-minute power play. He also had 1 bang off a post during that game, so very nearly had 2 goals. He has 1 goal and 1 assist this season. He's a player, again, one of those guys who were looking to step up, one of those kind of veteran Mavericks who hasn't gotten as much playing time as some of the superstar players we've had, but slowly over the last couple of seasons has integrated himself into the lineup more and more. And we're going to need him. As the season progresses to be productive and to do big things for UNO.
And I'd also like to give a shout out to defenseman Jacob Gavin. Again, that huge play that he had to keep it a 1-goal game on Saturday night could have been the momentum swing that Omaha needed if we'd been able to especially get that tying goal sometime during the rest of the game. That definitely would have been a play that we would point to as pivotal. So we've really appreciated his offensive prowess this year, but also he's just a really solid defenseman. And if he can keep that up, it takes a little bit of pressure off of Simon Lacosi.
One of those used to be one of those two Quebec defensemen that we had along with Joe LeMay. Joe is no longer with us. We definitely miss him out there on the blue line for UNO, but so glad to have Gavin back. And yeah, that was a huge play, swatting the puck from the crease behind Simon. So yeah, definitely worth an honorable mention. But we've got to turn to our things you missed in Mankato. And you and I did not actually spend a lot of time in Mankato up there. We certainly watched both of the games in downtown Mankato at the Mayo Clinic HSEC. But there was a snafu with our reservation in Mankato, so we ended up staying about 40 minutes away in Owatonna, Minnesota, which actually turned out to be really lovely. The courtyard that we stayed at in downtown Owatonna was quite lovely, a cute little downtown that they had there. So that was one of those little hassles that we had to deal with that actually turned out to be a lot of fun. And plus we were closer to head up I-35 to the Mall of America on Saturday, which we enjoyed. But one of the interesting things, and probably the main interesting thing that happened during that Mankato series, was during the Saturday game, the October 26th game. It was senior night at Mankato, which seems odd because teams typically do senior night the last home series of the season, right? So it was weird having it on Saturday night. And they had alluded to this before we went up, and I thought I heard wrong, but they were talking about this in the midweek presser last week for Mankato. So I don't know what the thought process is there for Luke Strand and why he had senior night early in the season. Any thoughts on that, Bridge?
Well, I was certainly confused. We were talking to some of the Omaha player parents, and initially I thought maybe they had confused it with Parents Weekend, because usually that's early in the season. I know Omaha's Parents Weekend is coming up during this next home series for Omaha. So I was under the impression that maybe it had been mislabeled, but nope. They honored their seniors, including former Omaha player Caden Bolson. He was out there with his girlfriend. And so, yeah, I have no idea what that was all about, but very, very interesting, and something that if you were not in Mankato, you definitely missed it.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. And on Caden Bolson, man, I really miss him. I wish we had him in the lineup this season. Sounds like he's nursing an injury for Mankato. So yeah, that was weird. So we don't know why that happened, but I'm sure somebody will comment below and tell us why they do senior night at the beginning of the season. I don't get it, Bridge, but that was interesting. And you alluded to the fact that it's going to be Parents Weekend coming up. We have a week off. Should be a good opportunity for some of the guys who are banged up to hopefully get healthy, maybe get back in the lineup. The team will be able to rest up, work on some things. That'll be good for the players, good for Coach Gabinet and the staff. But Western Michigan is coming to town on November 8th and 9th to start NCHC play. Our first conference action of the season should be exciting. As I mentioned, November 8th and 9th at Baxter Arena. Both of those games will be 7:07 p.m. Central start times. Western Michigan, of course, is led by head coach Pat Ferschweiler, one of my favorite coaches in this conference. I think he's done a great job, and I think they've recruited some terrific players there under his watch. He has a 73-44-3 record. The Broncos are 3-1-0 on the season. They swept Ferris State in a home-and-home series. They beat Bowling Green in a single game, and they lost to Boston College in a single game on the road out at Boston College, which just a weird schedule to start the season. They've also had some exhibition action in there against the U.S. National Development Program and York University, which was one of the Canadian colleges. So this team has 17 goals and 30 assists in 4 games this season. The firepower continues for this team despite losing some talented players in the off season. What do you think, just on first glance, of this WMU team coming to Omaha here in a couple weeks?
Well, you mentioned that they lost some scoring, and that was certainly one of the things that I noticed too. Mike McMahon and his College Hockey Insider preview of the teams, that was one of the things he had mentioned as well, that they, wondered where their scoring was going to come from, that they had a solid defensive core coming back, but they were bringing in, quite a few freshmen, and their scoring has come through. And so, like you said, they're averaging about 4.25 goals a game. We're averaging 1.5 goals a game. And so that's definitely something that they've been able to figure out, especially early on here. But if they're scoring 2 or 3 and we can only manage 1.5, that's going to be another tough weekend for the Mavericks.
Yeah, you definitely don't like that equation for UNO. And look, we don't want to make Simon stand on his head all season long. Look, this is a talented recruiting class that Western Michigan had coming in. Jordan McAlpine in College Hockey News rated it his 5th ranked class. So they're continuing to get talented recruits up there in Kalamazoo. Currently leading the team in points, looking at our players to watch, sophomore forward Owen Michaels has 4 goals and 1 assist this season. They've got talented forwards returning like Alex Bump and Tim Washi, who are names that we talked a lot about as fans of the NCHC last season. And as I mentioned, Jordan McAlpine's rankings, one of the freshmen that he highlighted was a defenseman, UNO Väisänen. He's from Finland. So I had to look up the pronunciation, Bridge. So I hope I'm right on that. He currently has 1 goal and 1 assist for the Broncos. And he is a Pittsburgh draft pick. And then you and I were talking about these guys in the car on the way back, the Slukinski brothers. Grant is a sophomore forward who transferred in from Northern Michigan. He has 1 goal and 4 assists this season. And freshman Hampton is a goalie who has split time with veteran 5th-year goalie Cam Rowe. Hampton has a 2.01 goals against average and a .938 save percentage. So they've got some interesting players. It'll be interesting to see now that we're out of non-conference play here for a little bit and we're starting some NCHC play, whether Cam Rowe will get both starts in net when they come to Omaha, or whether we'll see Hampton Slukinski in net for the Broncos. But some interesting guys on that roster, Bridge.
Yep. And the other thing, the scouting of Western is that they're a big, heavy team. And when I think of heavy, I think of big and tall. And so I looked, and their roster is incredibly tall. They have 14 players that are 6'2" or taller. 2 of their freshman forwards are 6'5". We have 1 6'5" player, that's Isaiah Norland, and only 4 of our players are 6'2" or taller, and 2 of those are goalies. So they are a big team, and of course that gives them a lot of reach, and they play a really physical, heavy style of play. And with our kind of smaller guys, they're going to have to be crafty. They're going to have to be quick. UMass was very similar. And although we were able to get that win against UMass, it definitely slowed us down because of the size of those guys. So I think it's going to be another really tough matchup for the Mavs this time around.
Yeah, absolutely right. Look, Western Michigan has a reputation the past decade or so of being a rough and tumble team to play. They're a tough team to play. They like to put pucks on net. And you mentioned their size. It's a big deal. You can't coach size. You can't coach wingspan, and you can't coach that stride going up and down the ice with those longer legs. So should be an interesting to see how UNO matches up against those guys. Bridge, all that in mind, everything we've talked about Western Michigan, how do you think we're going to do? Do you think we'll sweep? Do you think we'll get swept? Do you think we'll split? What do you think's going to happen when Western Michigan comes to town on November 8th and 9th?
Well, you mentioned the bye week and giving a chance for guys to get healthy. And so I'm going to put a little bit of an asterisk on mine. I think we split if we can get some of the guys back. For example, Liam Watkins, we talked about him in the car a little bit and the numbers that he had put up coming into Omaha. And I think that they're missing that right now. So if we can get him into the lineup, if we can get Aiden Gallagher back on defense or in on defense, since he hasn't actually had the opportunity to play for the Mavericks, I think we have a chance for a split. If we can't get those guys into the lineup and if Tanner is out for another weekend series, again, I struggle to see where the Mavs are going to get their scoring to come from, and especially against two really good goalies for the Broncos. So I'm going to say if we can get those guys back, it's a split. Unfortunately, if we can't get them and or Tanner back in, I'm going to say that it's another sweep for the opposing team.
Yeah, you mentioned Aiden Gallagher. He was a top shot blocker at Northern Michigan while he was there. We'd love to have him on the blue line for the Mavs. And again, you mentioned Tanner Ludke. Look, we don't have a lot of offensive threats right now on this team, so we need him in the lineup. And if he's not in the lineup for the Western Michigan series, who knows how UNO is going to look. Defensive play is probably going to be key, especially early on in the NCHC slate this first half of the season. So they're going to have to be ready to block shots. They're going to have to be ready to put guys into boards, and they're going to have to play a tough physical style of hockey. And you mentioned UNO's size, and that could be a tall order against some of these big, heavy teams like Western Michigan. So it should be interesting to see. I'm going to give the surprisingly pessimistic prediction for me. I'm going to say we get swept by Western Michigan. There's just too many unknowns for me at this point, and not knowing the status of Tanner Ludke, it's really hard for me to pick the Mavs against a team that's got the firepower that Western Michigan has, Bridge.
Yeah, and again, these picks are not to say that we aren't going to be there and cheering. And again, it's the everyone for Omaha. Win, lose, or draw, we hope folks come out to the games and watch them. But I don't want people to get their expectations too high, especially this early in the season, especially in NCHC play. Like we've outlined this entire episode, there's just a lot of things that the guys are still trying to figure out. I would love to see Brady Risk and Harrison Israels connect in the same way that they did when they were with Alaska. That just hasn't happened yet. Like you said, some of these new freshmen like LaPinta and Miles Hillman and Alexi Van Hoot-Kashera, which, again, I just love saying his name. We need all of our forwards to maybe have a little bit more fun out there, maybe be a little bit more freewheeling. Don't grip the stick quite so hard because, again, there's a whole season ahead of us. It's certainly not the time for fans or players to get discouraged. It's only October/November.
Yeah, and I'll emphasize that too. We want the guys to have fun out there. Look, you and I have watched a lot of college hockey over the last 27, 28 years now. And I'd say this isn't our first rodeo. We've seen up and down moments for this program since they started playing hockey October of 1997. And these are just kind of the growing pains you have when half of the roster is new for a season. So having the expectation that they're going to be fully baked out of the gate in October with this many new players, losing as many talented players as we lost last season, I think it's unrealistic. And there's going to be ups and downs during the season, Bridge. It's, we're going to have to contend with injuries as we're contending with now. Things are going to work. Things aren't going to work. Our opponents are going to have something to say about our success on the ice. It's just one of those things. So you just never know. And if you'd like to join us at that series, It'll be at Baxter Arena. UNO has been running ticket deals for the games this season, so keep an eye out for deals. Be sure to follow us because we'll definitely point those deals out to you. You can listen to the games on 1290 Coil in Omaha or online on the Varsity Network app. Mike Valancourt and Terry Leahy will, of course, have the call. You can watch the games, of course, on NCHC TV. And Bridge, there's also going to be a fan fest on Saturday night. It's homecoming weekend at UNO. Do you have any details for the fans on how they might be able to attend that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the UNO Alumni Association is hosting a 2024 Homecoming Fan Fest at Baxter Arena. That's going to be Saturday night before that Western Michigan game, and it's going to start at 5 o'clock. There's no charge to attend, but reservations are required/requested. You can find out more information and put in your RSVP at unoalumni.org/events.
Yeah, sounds like a great event. The Alumni Association always does a great job with their events that are in conjunction with games, either games at Baxter Arena or games on the road. We really appreciate the efforts of Anthony Flott and the folks with the Alumni Association for putting that on. So sounds like a great time. Be sure to follow Mavpuck on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can find links to all of our social channels at mavpuck.com, as well as back episodes of this podcast. But till next time, Bridge, go Mavs.
Go Mavs.